Can you hear us? Hello? Say something in there, really quick. Now I can.
Put your microphones on, please. It's not going. I know. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Brown County Area Planning Commission. Before we start the meeting, I want to request that you turn off your cell phones. No side conversations in the audience because it's hard for people to hear what is being presented. And also, when you are invited up to speak, you step up to the podium, you state your name into the microphone, and you get 3 minutes to speak. And with that, I call this meeting to order on October 28th, 2025 at 6 o'clock. And do roll call, please.
Carol Bowden,
Present.
Tim Allen,
Here.
Jane Gore. Here. Randy Jones.
Here.
Karen Amos.
Here.
Andy Boyles.
Here.
Kyle Duggan.
Here.
There is no old business. There is no new business. We are having a work session on camper/RV discussion, survey results, public input. And before we start that portion of the meeting, I have something to read for everybody. Recently, there have been concerns raised by several residents of Brown County regarding the use of RVs and campers as permanent dwellings on vacant parcels of land. When referring to a vacant parcel of land, this means that the land does not have a resident on the property with an address. This issue has been raised due to concerns about health and safety, as well as building standards for permanent dwellings. To dwell in a structure in Brown County, a septic permit and residential building permit must be issued. And the structure must pass all inspections and be issued a certificate of occupancy for the structure to legally be dwelled in on a permanent basis. RVs and campers pose a challenge as they do not meet building standards and waste disposal requirements. However, since they are not structures, they are not issued building permits, and thus they are never inspected and cannot be given a certificate of occupancy for them to be dwelled in on a permanent basis. The Brown County Building and Planning Commission Department has had a long-standing policy that RVs and campers could not be lived in permanently because they do not meet the standards for occupancy of the county. The use of RVs and campers as temporary camping for personal recreation has never been restricted. Recently, there has been pushback on this policy since there is not a place in the Brown County ordinance that speaks specifically to the use of RVs and campers as permanent dwellings. Because of the increased interest and appeal to live in Brown County, there has been an increase in the number of cases the Building and Planning Department has received around this subject and the increased need for there to be a place in the ordinance that speaks to this subject. Many counties in Indiana have specific ordinances and rules that restrict or prohibit the use of RVs and campers as permanent dwellings. It is for this reason that this issue is being brought before the Area Planning Commission as well as the community to discuss and debate on what the best path forward is for Brown County. And with that, Caleb?
You want to approve?
Huh?
You want to approve?
Oh, yeah. Just that, okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 23rd, 2025 meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes submitted.
Both the regular and the executive session.
Yes. Thank you.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Karen Amos,
I was absent.
Andy Boyles,
Yes.
Kyle Deckard,
Yes.
Carol Bowden,
Oh, yes, sorry.
Tim Allen,
Yes.
Jane Gore.
Yes.
Randy Jones.
Yes.
So we've got a slideshow presentation here, just of the regulation survey that we put out. And so we've got one up here on the big screen. We also have them, you can see them on the side screens there. So this question one, how often do you use an RV camper on your private property? 11,
Just a second longer.
so there's daily, weekly, monthly, rarely, and then never. We had 289 responses to this survey, and that was just in a little over 2 weeks. I feel like that was a pretty good response rate there. Question 2, what activities do you typically use your RV or camper for? So select all that apply. And then living, recreation, guest accommodation, storage, or other. Got the percentages. So it looks like we've got 17.65% says for living. 48, almost 49% recreation, guest accommodation, 42%, storage, 16, and then other 32. Question 3, do you think there should be regulations on the use of RVs or campers on private property? 26% said yes, 68% said no, and 6% said not sure. Question 5, should there be restrictions on the duration an RV or camper can be occupied on private property? 18% said yes. 73% said no. 8% said not sure. Question 6, what is your preferred duration for allowing campers on properties? 83% said long-term use, more than 2 weeks. 18% said short-term, 2 weeks or less. And 12% said only while building on that property. Question 8, do you think RV camper use on private property impacts neighborhood aesthetics? 29% says yes. 54% said no. 17% said not sure. Question 9, are you in favor of allowing property owners to camp in their RVs on their own property? 75% strongly favor. 10% somewhat favor. Neutral, 8%. Somewhat opposed, 3%. And strongly opposed, 3%. Question 10, would you support a permit system for RV/camper use on private property? 22% said yes, 63% said no, not sure is 14%. What restrictions should be put in place for RV camping on personal property? Time limits on how long the RVs can be parked, 18%. Noise restrictions, 20%. No restrictions, 44%. 11% designated areas for RV parking. 54% say waste disposal regulations. And 17% say other. And then, of course, we had all of the comments that you guys have in your board packets too. I can pull them up on the screen. There are 280 comments on there, so.
Any questions from the board?
A lot of questions, a lot of information. Did a good job collecting it.
So I do have a question about Survey Monkey. Can someone take the survey more than once? Or comment more than once? Are these all, like the 280 comments we got, are those individual people or? Cause I noticed a couple, like, it would start with, as I stated above,
I think that would mean like in a previous.
in a previous question.
Normally with those, you can,
Once
it's
you
like a
click on the-
setting, you can say, are they allowed to take it more than once or not?
Right.
But I would assume they're individual.
This was open to anyone, right?
Yes. And it was anonymous too.
I mean, I still think it would make any issues or repetition or people from elsewhere would be minimal in the grant
Mhm.
scheme.
Anything else?
Will you just what is the current? What's in the ordinance currently? Can you just like give us a recap of what it currently says?
In the ordinance, the only place other than an RV park that campers or RVs are even mentioned is in the floodplain. And that's for up to 180 days. But it's not an allowed use by the ordinance. It's not specifically stated that a full time or longer than 2 weeks is allowed per the ordinance.
It doesn't specifically allow it, but it doesn't specifically prohibit it.
Correct.
And then, but there are definitions of what like a dwelling unit or something like that. So it's like,
Mhm.
it doesn't, I mean, it wouldn't meet the current definition of like a house.
Right. It does not meet the building code definition of a home either.
But obviously there's right now we're just in the situation where it's like, it's not allowed, it's not prohibited, it's just been treated as prohibited because of some of these other things, like
Yes.
that it's doesn't meet the definition of a house or a tiny home.
You have I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted the refresher of what it says currently.
Okay. We presently have a written policy.
We do.
You have a copy of it?
Somewhere.
Or if you know it off the top of your head, if you wanna,
I can try that.
just what our policy actually is.
Yeah,
right
so
now.
it's been the policy, for as long as I've been here, is what I understand, even longer than that, that you're not allowed to leave your camper on your property. So there's no determined time that it can be there. We just say you can camp, you can vacation. A typical vacation is a week to 2 weeks. You need to take it with you when you go. Make sure that whenever you dump your waste, you've got receipts for that. So that we can prove, yes, you didn't dump your waste down the hill or something like that.
And I think
Did you say something like 2 weeks?
Yes,
that was just the way they were treating it, like what a vacation would be. I think I was walking in when Carol was reading it. Are you saying that was like specifically for vacant property is where that was kind of being applied, or?
yeah, most of the time, because that's the complaints that we were to get would be, people are coming, they're leaving their camper here, they're leaving their generator on, we don't know where their waste is going. Those types of issues.
So our written policy only applies to what would be considered vacant property?
Oh, no.
Although it doesn't state
It
that.
doesn't, no,
Okay.
no, we
So-
just haven't run into that
Okay,
anywhere else where there's someone actually living in the home. And then there's a camper that someone else is living in.
Now, there has been lots of land that they were building a house and they had a camper out there. So they could use that while they're building their house. Is there any limit on that?
That hasn't been allowed up until
In the, like by the
by the
policy.
policy, yeah.
policy's not legally enforced.
Okay, I have here a copy of a document I think is what you're talking about. Is this
It looks like it from here.
would you like me to read it
Please.
so that we know exactly what it says and doesn't say? Camper RV policy, property owners can camp on their own property. This can be done for short periods of time only. Example, average vacation time, 1 week. Campers cannot be used for permanent dwelling and cannot have permanent decks or additions attached. Waste must be properly disposed of off-site, and property owners must keep waste management receipts for proof of disposal. For vacant parcels, camper, RV tent, etc. shall be removed from the property once camping is finished. For parcels with a home, a camper RV may be stored on the parcel while not in use. I can pass that. I don't,
But that is our new written policy.
Yes.
you've got some other stuff, just definitions attached to the back of that. This is from last month.
Yeah.
So I understand that we have a policy that previously wasn't recorded, or it wasn't official, right?
Right.
So we've made an official policy, but there's still nothing in the zoning ordinance that addresses this particular issue.
Yeah, it's vague.
So it's not that
I don't know if we've really made the policy. What she has done is wrote down what the policy
has been.
Yes.
Right, okay. And our own policy is somewhat ambiguous. I mean, it leaves room for what is a short time? What is, like, there's some ambiguity in there. I'm to understand that we're discussing this not because we're trying to find something new to regulate, but because there is a school of thought that says we can't let people live in campers. But then there's a school of thought that says people own property and buy a camper, they can do what they want on their property.
And there's like an active complaint against
Right.
the neighbor where it's an active issue for someone in the county. That's what.
And I also think we're trying to give some clarification to commission personnel as to how to handle this.
100%. I wanted to catch everyone up as to how we got here, like why this is even being discussed. And
And
so that,
I'm trying to add on to that a
Yeah.
little bit. And we were trying to provide some clarification to our staff as to when they get these complaints in, how do they actually handle this? And we found out that the ordinance, the way it is written now, really has no clarification or guidance on how to handle it. With the exception of the written policy we have now. So that was another reason that we decided to revisit this. From my perspective, I'm looking at it more from the standpoint of not so much people coming in and using it for camping, temporary occupation by family members. Or somebody who wants to pull something in on their private land and use it for a while for staying there while they're hunting. But more of permanent occupation, permanent residence. And typically how we're handling all of these right now, as I understand it. And Kayla, please correct me if I'm wrong, or anyone else up here, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But when we do get these complaints, we typically hand them over to the county health department to check to see if the sewage and the septic that's being generated, if any, is being properly managed according to both county and state regulation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So that gives you a little bit of background and why we're here this evening discussing this, because we wanted input from you all and the 287 people that we heard from, whether or not you feel there's a problem here, something we should be looking at, something we should be considering, because it is a land use issue. And that's what the planning commission is set up to do, and that's what our development code is to address.
Just as a side question, on the tiny, like, from a tiny home perspective, which those were added like as an allowable dwelling type, I don't know how many years ago. Are there only certain zoning designations where that's allowed, or what's the,
So the minimum square footage in FR, which is Forest Reserve, is 240 square feet.
so that's the only zone where like, and obviously most RVs are bigger than 240 square feet, but that's the only one where that type of
Yeah.
like small
Yeah.
dwelling unit is permitted.
Mhm. And even if it would meet the square footage for the entire thing, it would still need to be on permanent foundation from what the Indiana Residential
Okay,
Building.
that's what I was also gonna ask. Are there state level regulations that say like a camper is not a permanent dwelling?
Yes.
Yes,
Well. Put in here.
Sure, and always.
I did have a discussion with Lonnie on this, and apparently in 2020 Indiana Residential Code, there's nothing in there that specifically talks about RVs or campers. But there are certain construction conditions that have to be met by that code that according to him, an RV or camper would never meet. So,
like bedroom size,
correct,
bathroom size,
Foundation.
window size, foundation. There are a lot in that Indiana Residential Code that a camper, even the park model RVs,
correct.
can't and won't be able to meet.
Yeah, they don't meet egress, fire safety, footing.
So like,
And-
how are other counties that allowed, like, how is that being
That's a-
addressed?
That's a good question. I think they've got a set time limit on them. Like Morgan County is the one that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head. They will let somebody live in a camper and RV for 1 year if they have a building permit for a residence. And their septic already has to be in, they've got to use it for waste management. So there are some conditions on that.
So if it, like, obviously it's happening here and elsewhere, it's just the sort of thing of like, well, we're not saying it's allowed, but we're not saying it's not allowed. Like, we're not enforcing that it's not.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm not even sure, do you know who the enforcement arm of the state would be on that? You know, is there an office that, I don't know who you would even refer.
I think it's a local issue. I don't know how they're getting away with it in other counties, allowing permanent residency.
Has anybody like spoke with DHS? You know, that's who I think handles all the building code and such. Has anybody spoke to them to figure out their stance on?
DHS?
Yes.
Would be the enforcement arm of that?
Yes, I was pretty sure it did.
Or the state fire marshal.
State Fire Marshal been another one.
Mhm. I know that Lonnie's had conversations with Michelle Noy from the state fire marshal's office. And she said, you know, she hasn't seen a camper be eligible as a dwelling, according to Indiana State Residential Code.
So obviously, depending where this goes or what you think the path forward is, that would be like a line of questioning to proceed with.
Yeah.
In our existing definitions, we do have structure, which means a walled and roofed building, including a gas or liquid storage tank, which is principally above ground. The term includes a manufactured home as well as a prefabricated building. It also includes recreational vehicles installed on a site for more than 180 consecutive days.
That in the floodplain ordinance.
It just says
Or
the
just-
definition of a structure, but I'm
It's-
betting that that structure is probably used in the flood, like that you can't erect a structure in the
Yeah.
floodplain.
I'm
Right?
thinking so.
Said that word anywhere else.
And I have copies. I don't know if everybody else still has these or not, but these are from Laporte, Tippecanoe, Grant, Morgan, Shelby, Jackson, and Jefferson. It's Kayla had gathered these last month. And they all kind of range, you know, from some are barely have something and some are pretty restrictive.
David, question for you. If we were to come up with an ordinance or language to such effect under, Indiana Residential Code 2020, assume anything, we could not be any weaker than that. I mean, you'd have to comply with what? Would this be an IAC, Indiana Administrative Code?
No.
Is 2020? It's not? Okay, what would it
You're referring to,
be? I'm referring to what, the Indiana Residential Code, and he gave it to me as 2020.
yeah, that would be an administrative code
Okay,
section.
so we could not do anything weaker than that, of course, or can we?
Well, that's regulating buildings and,
Or would it even apply?
that's my question is if it's a land use issue, I don't know that would apply. Those, and I guess when you're thinking about land use, you're thinking about what impacts this structure and the use of the structure is going to have on the land and the surrounding. So whether a bedroom is, 5 by 10 or 100 by 100, it's not, you'd have to have some impact on the neighborhood for that to be a land use concern. I think the building regulations are deal with health of the occupants rather than the health of the surrounding area. If that,
I think that makes sense, but then how does that apply to our ability to either allow or disallow? Like, to say, yeah, it's fine, live in them, you just need a septic system or whatever.
But if you do live in them and you do bring it in for full-time occupation, then that structure that you bring in, whether it's an RV or a camper, mobile home, whatever you want to call it, not mobile home, whatever you want to call it, would have to be there in compliance with IAC 2020.
That's what I,
yeah, for the building department would be concerned about that. And then the health department would be concerned about your septic and all that.
but so you could say from a land use perspective, like, is this what you're saying, that from a land use perspective, you could allow it, but then the building department and the health department would be at odds with that, given the
If-
current state regulations?
Yeah, if you're going to use it for a long-term occupancy.
Okay. Okay, so you're saying, even though it's not necessarily a land use, the building code is not a land use thing, that we would still want to be in alignment. We couldn't be more permissive than the state code allows.
I mean, I think that when you issue a planning permit, you'd say, hey, it has to comply with all other relevant state and local permits.
Well, yeah, so.
Yes, which would address septic, water, and electricity too. Because some of the concerns of people is the generator running the whole time, which is a noise factor for neighbors and stuff, where electricity, I would presume you wouldn't have that much of an issue.
Yeah, but that's not what do they call that? A red herring. Like, I have a generator that when the power goes off, it kicks on. It runs until the power comes on. A generator noise isn't, I mean, I can see from a health and safety standpoint with having something wired up, or jumping a meter, but not just because they use a generator. We use generators.
I think it'd be the constant nature of it that is the issue.
And that's what I was talking about, the constant running of a generator. That has nothing to do with power outage or anything. It has to do with the living environment.
You're talking about something real temporary, and the complaint is permanent generator running all the time. I have a generator that kicks on when the power goes out also. It only runs when the power's out.
Can I tell you, there's no more annoying sound on earth
If-
if your power is out to hear your neighbor's generator.
You don't have one. You're right.
I can attest, but,
So you got one.
well, yeah, we got one now. And I can't hear their generator anymore because my TV's on.
Well, can we all agree that what we're, just what we know what we're focusing on here is more of a long-term issue occupation and not just a short-term? And we haven't defined, we have not defined short-term or temporary. We haven't even discussed that. But are we looking primarily as, for long-term occupation? Someone who's actually living there, intending to live there as their home?
But I guess here's the thing, that sometimes short-term turns into long-term.
Well, that's
And-
my,
I've been around a minute. I know personally plenty of people who have either stayed in a camper or worse. And it's not necessarily because it was their option A, right? Like, I don't know that anybody aspires to go live in a camper in the woods. I know there's a whole new thing on TikTok where people are traveling around in their vans and stuff, and that's cool, but I'm saying the people who are doing this long-term, I think it would be safe to say that it wasn't their plan A. It wasn't their option A. That they would rather have a different situation. So limiting someone from doing that and trying to get out of that situation, I take issue with. Like, I don't want to kick someone when they're down, and I've been there. So it is a sticky wicket, which is why we wanted public input, because I don't think it's an issue that needs zero regulation, but it needs like 0.001 regulation.
I think irregardless, my big concern is waste disposal. What that is and how do we ensure that that's done? And it's not being dumped. But unfortunately, I know places where that was happening and not necessarily with a camper, but that kind of environmental appropriate support. No matter whether you're in a house, a trailer, a shed, that kind of thing. So irregardless, I think something has to be discussed with some kind of plan about waste disposal.
I agree with you. And I guess like where I'm stuck, and I have a follow-up question for Kayla, it's like, if all things were equal, I would be with Andy and kind of like, let's just figure out how this, can work for the folks that need it. Cause who's it really affecting if they're disposing of their waste appropriately and da. But if it's not allowed by the state bill, like where does that like give us a path? And from the septic issue, it sounds like, that's a health department issue that already exists as far, maybe, I don't know, I don't know how they're falling, but that's like outside of the plan department's purview. All we can say, you have to have a septic system or proper waste disposal, but at the end of the day, that's the health department's job to enforce and check, I guess.
well, once again, this whole issue may be moved because we're looking at it from a land use issue. But the Indiana Residential Code under 2020, they already prevent that type of activity under what it restricts.
Say
Right.
what?
The residential,
I mean, in other words, that RVs and campers just will not meet that code. So
So
that is,
aspects of it didn't meet.
no, I don't. I could not go into the specifics. of
I
it.
think what you're trying to say is a camper's not a structure. It'll never be a structure.
well,
It's
maybe a
not
dwelling.
designed, a dwelling.
I'm not saying that. I'm thinking that the code does though.
Right, yes. So we're in agreement.
Yeah, right. So what I'm saying is if that already precludes that, prohibits that from happening or being used to in that way, then I'm not sure the land issue, which is us, even comes up for consideration. Now, the other question is, if in fact that is the case, then I think staff needs to be provided some directions of who to contact when you get these calls.
Mhm.
And that was my reason for asking, is there a state office up at IGC North or IGC South that actually someone's up there answering the telephone with the state building office, if there is such a thing?
I would wonder, I would assume they would have some type of time period on what makes something like when does it become a permanent residence or a dwelling?
Yes, yes, they may very well.
Yeah.
Lonnie's not here tonight, is,
He's not, he wasn't able to come.
pardon me?
He wasn't able to come tonight.
Okay,
He thought he was gonna be able to.
okay,
We do have some of our health department folks here tonight.
I saw Mr. Reed back there. Question, Madam Chairman.
Oh, she's with the health
Oh,
department as well.
Pardon me, we're still, okay.
Anybody else from the board got any comments?
I,
Can you go back to question 2?
There are no more comments?
Hang
Then,
on.
I'm sorry, what?
Hold on.
He asked her to go back to question 2.
Well, I'm trying to.
Go to the graph, the bar graph. For that right there, yeah, that one. That is assuming these are Brown County residents. Assuming you've got an even distribution of types of folks answering this residence. That's staggering, 17.65% of people live in a camper.
Well, I mean, of respondents, because
But
obviously you're
That's
gonna
how you're
be,
supposed to take these. It's a sample. You're supposed to.
right, but you're
That's
gonna
48
respond,
people.
you're gonna respond, no, that's still laying
That's-
more people than in this room, but you're also gonna get more responses from people that are directly potentially affected by it.
You would assume.
Yeah.
But it is a sample. So.
And can, or no, I guess
That's
recreation.
just, I think, a very large number that can't be ignored by just saying, yeah, can't do this. The answer should be, how can
We
we
thought that was
do
a
it?
surprising.
How can we do it for them? Maybe instead of no. And
We
then
don't even know if they all live in Brown County because this went out on
let's go to
Facebook.
question 9. On the graph. Just a question, so. This is just camping,
This is
not
just
living.
camping.
The other staggering thing to me is you've got that many people that don't think someone should be able to camp in their own camper on their own property.
But that's the point, I mean,
I just,
yeah,
just
there's,
point it out.
yeah. People think everything under the sun, somebody thinks.
Yeah, did you guys read the comments?
Yeah.
I
mean,
thought you read those in.
I'd prefer not to have that many bleeps in my,
But I think there's a
Presentation.
general sense, yes, there's
Survey Monkey doesn't
some,
censor it here.
some beliefs as well, but in general, it's like proper waste disposal shouldn't be able to be used as a short-term rental or a business. You know, it's kind of like the same requirements that you would expect of someone living there.
Yeah.
Would be, you know,
And that would be something we would have to look into and clarify so that it would be consistent across the board and appropriate.
Well, I'd like to go back to what David was saying too, though. Even if we went ahead and allowed that under those conditions, again, the petitioner or the landowner would have to find out whether or not what they're wanting to live in is going to comply with the Indiana residential code. First and foremost.
you kind of fall back to where we are with all our other regulations, which frankly is complaint driven. So if somebody's in a situation where you're not receiving complaints, then
And we don't
You
know.
don't
that.
know, and it's not it's
Correct.
enforced. And whether that's fair or not, that's the way this office operates on the resources and staff it has. So,
Yeah, I don't think we can be retrospective on what's out there.
no, I just
What's
mean,
coming in.
I'm saying if our thought was, well, if this was the outcome, well, we would be inclined to allow it, but it's not allowed by the state building code, so we can't have an ordinance that says it's allowed. Then the default just becomes, well, if it's not a complaint, then
Not going out.
we're not like going out and policing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But when it's brought to our attention.
Right,
Staff,
then,
my concern again, once again, is the staff needs to know what to do.
Right, yes,
Proper
yeah.
way to report it to, so.
Any other comments? Okay. And with that, first person up to the podium gets to speak for 3 minutes.
are we starting with 4 or just free for all?
Hi, my name is Erin Keller Kroll.
Hold on just
No,
a,
no, no, hold on. Okay, hang on a second,
No
man.
worries.
They brought up a question I didn't think about, though.
Where's your input?
Huh?
Yeah,
technically, we're not voting for or against
No,
anything, so
it's
it's just,
gathering information,
right.
so.
free.
Free for all, yeah, all right. Yes, ma'am?
Okay. Hi, my name is Erin Keller Kroll. I work for the health department with Minnie Reed.
I'm sorry, did you say your name? Because
Erin Keller Kroll.
Make sure you speak at the microphone.
Maybe I need to bring.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, so I work for the health department and we are complaint driven. And so I just want to kind of throw that out there. So we do have quite a few complaints that come through our department that Ernie and I investigate because Ernie and I are in charge of the complaints. Not only do we have a problem with people living on land and that's great, but when you have a camper and you're disposing of your waste illegally and it goes into other people's property, that's when we get the complaints. So Ernie and I have met with Kayla and Lonnie because there's a growing issue. Not only is there a growing issue of people living in their campers, but people with homes parking campers on like property, having a 3-bedroom septic, and then having more and more people coming in and overloading that septic, which will eventually go into failure. So we need like the workings of all the departments here. So, between solid waste, between the planning department and the health department. So we kind of all have to work together to get these things through. We work off of ordinances, just like, planning goes by, whatever they have on their ordinance. But we get kind of caught in the middle because we have a hard time enforcing things. And because it becomes civil matter. So whenever we have stuff that we can go on, it helps us to do our job. We hate going there, kicking people out of their homes. So, Andy, I know what you were saying. I hear what you're saying. The last thing we want to do is kick people out of their homes. We have septic issues and people just disposing this waste and not putting it into a septic area. So we wouldn't care if, from our perspective, as long as it was going into some kind of waste disposal system. So basically, you're just contaminating the ground and your neighbors. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not as well versed on septics as Andy. Can you have either a septic or like a tank that you pump and haul away?
Yes, you can have a pump and haul. You do have to apply for that as well. So you have to go through a permitting process for that as well. A lot of people at Quarterly Sweetwater are moving to that because they want to build big houses and septics don't fit. So you can go into a pump and haul, but I will say that it is cost prohibitive because you are looking at basically another mortgage payment a month because you're looking at roughly around $600, if not more, every time you pump it out because you have two 1,500-gallon holding tanks with an alarm system. So it's cheap to put in, but it's expensive in the long run to maintain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Go ahead. Hey, my name is Russ Herndon, longtime Brown County resident. Moved here 50 years ago, built my first cabin. Out running water, and I had an outhouse at the time that was allowed. But you know, the reason we're here is because this isn't just a Brown County issue. This is all across the country. The acute housing, the problems we have, the cost of building a new house, $300, $400 a square foot, it just keeps going up. So when people have an RV and they can put their child in it or their mother in it, maybe the mother can, you know, come in for dinner and use the house and do her laundry, whatever. These are solutions that are happening around the country. So I'd rather we not think about this as reinventing the wheel here and discussing it. I hope everyone read the stuff about Deschutes County and understand it. So this went all the way to the state level and they figured it out. They have a very robust plan and requirement that addresses some of these same things where noise, disposal, water, and power. So they require that people have a pedestal. You know, you've seen them on new job construction sites and such, where you've got your panel and your power supply and your water, like a yard hydrant and water. They also allow, they just say in their code, the state code for Deschutes County is that they just hire someone with a license to haul the effluent away, like a pump and haul. Also, they sometimes use people like the porta potty outfits, you know, where they, on my construction, for 50 years, I've designed and built houses. So on my construction job sites, if they've got an RV there where someone's building their house and they're living in their RV, they hit the porta potty and they hit the RV, 40, 50 bucks, boom. So if people are living in proximity to a primary, also this requires them to shoot a primary residence as one of their versions. So if you've got a primary residence and it's your house and your mother-in-law is living out back there, you're going to make sure she doesn't have trash everywhere. You know, there's a lot more private ownership things going on like that. If people are wanting to get on the land, it's so hard to build these days, it's so expensive. It might take a couple of years to save up a down payment. You know, what's 20% of 300K? That's a lot to save up if you're living and working in this county. So I think we should take more time and develop a working group that gives us, instead of trying to throw, you know, water on it, figure a way that people succeed. Generational families in this county are not the people that are building Airbnbs. You know, they can't rent those buildings any longer. So let's figure a way where people, where we can help people succeed. And I think we can do that because I was looking at the RV stats online, and they said that like 11% of people have an RV. You know, so that might mean we may have 1,000 of them in our county, old ones, new ones around. Anybody that drives anywhere in this county, they're going to see a trailer somewhere. Someone's probably living in it. If no one's calling and bitching but complaining about it, then they'll continue to.
Thank you.
So let's have a real work group, but take a little more time, like the septic ordinance rewrite. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Randy Aspenson, resident of this county, retired Columbus police officer, retired from the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy and a Marine. I appreciate your time. I'm not here because of the survey. I'm here because of the problem I'm experiencing right now. So this might be addressed more to some of you. Some of these situations are extreme and you can compound them with criminal activity. My case in point is my mother, who is an 86-year-old endangered adult with dementia. She can't take care of her own affairs, has a 76-acre farm, surrounded by the park on 3 sides, extremely remote, one way in, one way out. So her getting help doesn't happen quick. 11 or 12 years ago, she allowed my younger brother and his girlfriend to move in on the farm. Her and my father, in their infinite wisdom, and I hate to say that, thought that giving someone a free ride was a good idea. But if they're drug addicts, it's not a good idea. Idle hands, folks. I saw it coming. I begged them not to do this. Make them get jobs, make them clean up their acts. Nope. So They pulled in a camper after a mobile home didn't work out. There's never been a legal septic system there. There's a hole dug underneath a camper, a small camper with gravel in it. That's the septic system that they use. This is a $2 to $2.5 million farm that this is happening to, and a woman who can't fight back. My brother died on October 4th. Worst cancer I've ever seen. He died in squalor inside of that camper. That unchecked situation. Unchecked completely. She is refusing to leave this camper. She is now officially a squatter. She's had no contractual interest in this whatsoever. None. Refusing to leave. She's stealing from my mother out of the barn and other inheritance things that should go to my dead brother's children. Folks, these ordinances and things that you're doing nowadays, I also worked for 4.5 years for the Columbus Planning Department, believe it or not, before I went back into law enforcement. This tiger has no teeth. I'm not for big government, folks. Don't get me wrong. I don't like people looking over my shoulder either, but you have to have a little bit of protection. I know this because that's all I've done my entire life. I've trained over 8,500 cops in this state, including most of that department. Give the tiger some teeth, or you can't do your job. Now, I've got a hell of a situation there, and my time is up, isn't it, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
I hope I got my point across to everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is James Thompson. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this panel. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm retired from Indianapolis Fire and EMS. I own property in Hendricks County, a home, but I bought some property here in Brown County. I was raised here in the 60s, 70s, so I always like to come home. It's therapeutic for me. Well, I bought a couple empty lots and I put an RV there. I have a pump and haul system. And it's properly gravel. Not everybody who owns or lives in campers are criminals. But when I parked the RV, I checked, I got the health department out, did everything proper. And I was told by somebody from the government center, I said, I don't live in it. I come down here last year, I stayed a month because I had a family member dying of cancer, so we stayed to help. I might come down for a week or a weekend just to get away, to come home again. But we were told, well, you can't keep the camper there, whether you're living in it or not. It better be gone by November. You can bring it back in the spring, but it better be gone. So then I have to wonder if that's even lawful. If we could tell people when they camp vehicles on their own private property, whether it be a camper or a car, we overreach in here and should this be challenged in court? And I'd like an answer to that. Can I keep this RV on the property, whether I'm there or not? We don't live in it for long term. It is an issue that we're all going to be facing. I don't intend to live on the property. I may build on it someday. Right now, it's just a lot. And the neighbors know that I have a pump and haul. They're welcome to come inspect it. They're fine with us being there. So we include the neighbors in what we're doing that we have. And I think that's something that we're all going to be dealing with here and across the country. Older people are getting booted out of homes because costs are rising. They're going to mobile homes all across the country. This is no exception here in Brown County. And so we're going to have to be dealt with. And I'm not sure how you're going to do it. All the complex things you've talked about today is way above my pay grade. But I wanted to tell you about my personal situation. I love Brown County. This is my home. And I'd like to keep coming back. But if I'm told, well, you can't stay there, you can't keep this camper there more than 8 months out of the year, we're going to come haul it away on my own private property, that's concerning to me. Should I go and try to challenge this in court? Is it even lawful to tell me I can't have the camper, even if I'm not staying in it on my property? I'd like the answer to that. Was I told proper? Do I have to move my camper this month? Or can I leave it there till my health allows me to go down? I usually take it back to Hendricks County and store it there in the wintertime. But if I would need to leave it here, can I do that? I can't find a statute telling me I have to move the camper. So that's just my personal situation, and I hope y'all can come to some consensus for people that are forced to live in campers. They may not be criminals, they may just be down on their luck. I do believe in sewage disposal proper. That's essential. Nobody wants garbage, running down their land. So that's something that probably has to be addressed, but best of luck.
Anyone else?
I'm Gary Harden. I've been here my whole life. I have 23 acres out on Dolly Road. And it's rezoned first, actually. I had a cabin that burned. And it had some health issues, so for years, I've been wanting to build back. I have some logs to build back and so forth. I had an opportunity, almost a year ago, to buy a good deal on a 40-foot trailer. So I thought, well, I'll bring it and put it there. And maybe rent it a little bit until I can get another cabin built. So I came down and talked to Caleb and then Lonnie. And they call it an RV. You can call it what you want. It's a huge trailer. I'd hate to try to take it camping anywhere because it's so big. But anyway, I asked him, I said, it's it's about 2 years old. It's really nice. I asked them to come out and take a look at it, take a look at the situation. They weren't interested. They said, well, if it's an RV, you can't do anything with it. So, and then I talked to Lonnie on the way out. One day, he was supposed to come out, but he said there was no point. And he told me, I said, well, if I can't rent it out, I said, what can I do with it? And he basically said, nothing. I said, what do you mean? I can't stay in it? He says, well, you can a day or two or a weekend or whatever. But he says, you can only leave it there 7 days and then you have to move it. This is in the center of 23 acres. I have city water. I have a septic system from the existing house that was approved, excuse me, for a 2-bedroom rebuild. And I want to know if Lonnie told me the truth or if that was a lie. That I have to move in 7 days. And I also want to know where I can get a written rule book, handbook, whatever you have, so I can read it instead of just what somebody tells me, because I don't think I was told the truth, apparently. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, if there isn't anyone else, bring it back up to the board. Does the board have any further comments?
I guess one question I have, the policy we currently have, that's just a written form of the verbal policy we had that has not been voted on and adopted, correct?
Right, that's just
That's just a draft for.
it's
that's
just a written
piece of
policy
paper
of
all this right now.
what has been done since
Okay,
I've been here.
Did we not vote on that?
I believe that you guys did
I-
vote
did
to
we?
accept it
I was thinking,
as a policy, as a written policy.
do you guys remember? It seems like to me, did we vote on that or did we just?
I think we just got it in, we said we weren't doing it yet.
Should be in the minutes.
It should be. Okay, you could.
I don't mind that voting.
No, because I think we brought it up and then we decided that we didn't have enough information yet to vote on it. If I
Or they
remember,
just looked at it.
and I'm the last guy to ask about from memory, but
Well, I think if anything, the logic was, even if it's a policy, like, it just
It
gets
means
us back to
nothing.
this. At the end of the day, yes, it's documenting what has been done forever, how it's kind of like fallen, but now
It's not an official.
it's not an
ordinance.
enforceable ordinance, so that's the whole point of all this.
Well, as a point of order, we could you research the minutes to see if we did vote on that or we did
I
not?
think you did. I was looking at it right now.
Okay, if we didn't, then.
It says the discussion of RV campers regulations were discussed, and in order for the written policy to be effective, there needed to be an ordinance drafted. ideas from other counties were discussed to us, so it was Brown County.
That's right, because we didn't have an ordinance to back it up. We decided not to pass the,
So the written policy that we have now has not been voted on by this commission.
Correct.
I think in general, we wouldn't vote on a policy. The policy is supposed to be like, here's the day-to-day way we're implementing the ordinance, and it's just
Yes.
kind of giving people an easy to follow guide. But that's where we've got crossways here, like,
Dave, suggestion on that? Should we vote on the policy or not?
If you have a policy to vote on,
but I mean, the office would make policies. The policy is just like how they're enforcing the ordinance that's in place typically, right? Like, we're not oversighting every day-to-day thing they're doing, how they're
Well, but
applying the ordinance.
But in all fairness, that wouldn't necessarily be a day-to-day type operation. A policy is something that's set that should be carried out consistently. And is that something that can be done administratively? Or is that something that the policy should be voted on by the planning commission?
well, if your policy is how the ordinance is being administered, that can be done in office. And if if you hear about it and you're unhappy about it, you can instruct,
No, but the fact that our ordinance was cited comes to RVs campers that are subject to. We don't have any language in there on that. So has been doing certain things, and bring it to the county. That's been the policy is now.
Basically, there's no reason to vote on a policy if there's not an ordinance.
so back it up.
Right, yeah, I mean, you have an ordinance that applies to the health board. You don't need to adopt a policy to tell Kayla, send these things to the health board or to the health department, because that's in the ordinance.
No,
We don't have a
It's not in
specific
the
ordinance for RVs.
Kayla, is the ordinance instruct you to send it to the health department?
There's no,
There was
It's something that's always been done?
Yes,
Okay,
But like, it's a
Yeah.
regulation that is the responsibility of the health department. So why would that have to be in the ordinance? Tell them just, I don't know.
well, obviously this is rather confusing, isn't it?
apparently.
my understanding was if there was not an ordinance, the policy means nothing. So there's no reason to have a policy
Right,
if there's no ordinance.
yeah, because there's
So the
nothing
ordinance
backing.
needs to be created first. And then if a policy is needed, it'll be, subsequently created.
Dave, you have a meeting plan?
No, that's the way I would look at that, is that the main policy from a planning perspective is written in the code. And how that's administered is just what staff does.
And in this case, we have nothing written in the code,
Right.
so. We shouldn't have a policy.
So we can,
If we this, that we shouldn't have a policy on it.
so we can instruct the staff to not talk about it and not have a policy, or we can change the ordinance so that they have something that backs them when they're instructing people. I mean, it's kind of why we're,
Oh, yeah, thanks for reminding me.
5-minute recess.
Mom over here.
Lynn Cooker.
Well, I'm even more confused than I was before we started asking these questions, so, just leave it at that.
I think, again, just for clarity's sake, this board did not just decide to find the next hornet's nest to kick. Like, these are issues and things that you're facing that the Area Plan Commission's facing in the office that we realized there was a catch-22. So that's why all this is being brought up. It's been observed that we have a hole in our plan, right? So we're trying to fill the hole.
And I think it's incumbent upon us as a commission that we provide the direction that we expect the staff to handle these and go into.
With an ordinance, not with a policy.
Either way, but with the ordinance, yes. But it is,
The policy would be there, but the policy would be based on the ordinance that's not there. So,
you can't write an ordinance that's all encompassing and everything. It's impossible. It can't be done. Absolutely impossible. And so, well, from my background with the state, which I know that's not a good thing to compare, we have policies to fill in some of those holes that are different, rules and regulations. I'm not saying it's good. That's what we have.
any other comments, Kyle?
Oh,
We have a policy that isn't backed by an ordinance and is not legally enforceable. I don't think we should be telling anyone anything goes against. It's currently out. Feels like we might be exposing ourselves to litigation.
I think that's what's been uncovered in this whole thing.
Like what we say, I don't want a policy without an ordinance, but maybe a policy would be to not to stop acting on the previous policy if it's not backed by an ordinance, or at least reconsider.
Well, and the truth is, we're not acting on it anyway. There's no enforcement.
I get it.
I mean,
But
Right, but if you're telling people this is allowed or isn't allowed.
Correct.
if
That's right.
There's not anything, yeah.
and I'm not trying to say, love you guys over here. I'm not saying against any.
Oh, yeah, this is an inherited problem
But-
from years and years and years worth of,
If we don't have anything in law that says you can't do this with a camper, we shouldn't be telling anybody you can't do that.
Well, you can have procedural policies in terms of administrative action that have nothing to do with enforcement.
Mhm.
Okay. You can have procedure policies in an office.
Yep.
Okay, it does not have anything to do with enforcing someone to do something. I'm just talking about activity kind of thing.
That I completely understand. But
Yeah.
we shouldn't be saying you can't pull this RV or camper onto your property and sleep in it for more than 2 days. There's nothing in law that says you can't do that.
Well, it sounds like we don't totally know what the building code is saying.
well, no, the building code is clear.
can't
The,
live there.
the building code is clear on what is an acceptable dwelling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So it's not whether or not a camper is a building. It's not. It's not meant to be. It's designed to be a temporary place to sleep. It's a sleeping bag with walls, right? Like that's a recreational vehicle. I'm talking campers. I'm not getting into distinction of class or size or anything like that. It is along with, I mean, for that matter, some mobile homes. You know what I mean? They have a title. They have a title from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, not,
A VIN number.
right, they have a VIN number. So, but those are designed to be a dwelling. And
For human habitation.
they meet being a dwelling as long as a footing inspection is completed, a wastewater inspection is completed, as long as several things are put in saying this is safe to occupy. So I don't know that there's I don't know that the building code can be the distinction.
Well, does it give a time? Like, how
No.
long do you have to live somewhere for it to need to be a dwelling?
180 days.
Okay.
A structure becomes a dwelling at 180 days.
Okay.
What are you quoting in these,
The definitions that are in our,
in our development code?
Where does it say?
does it also includes recreational vehicles installed on a site for more than 180 consecutive days?
What are you quoting from?
The definition of a structure.
Is that
Our
what?
development code?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, from our definitions. This
Okay,
is what,
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
But it does say that a recreational vehicle means it's built on a single chassis. It's 400 square feet or less when measured at the largest horizontal projections. It's designed to be self-propelled or permanently towable by a light-duty truck. Designed primarily not for use as a permanent dwelling, but as quarters for recreational, camping, travel, or seasonal use.
I guess then you get to what's in stock.
Well, I really think we need to have,
Right.
it's too bad that our building inspector's not here, so he could be addressing some of these issues for us, because none of us up here are not that. So,
And it doesn't meet the square footage
It doesn't.
required for the bedroom. There's a square footage requirement for kitchens, egress, ingress, for windows, even like a gentleman came up here and spoke and had a really nice park model RV. I don't know if you guys know what the park models are, but they're very, very nice. Still not big enough for people to live in, according to building code, according to our zoning code, that has minimum square footage requirements. They're just not, they're not big enough. The bedroom sizes aren't big enough. The safety ingress egress is not big enough. I mean, there are many issues that prevent you from living in one,
and when you say
according
building,
to Indiana Residential Building Code.
okay, that was my question. Okay.
Disclaimer.
And the problem is you can't legislate morality. Don't make a law that makes honest people lawbreakers. You know what I mean? Like, because the people that are going to do it the right way and dispose of sewage and follow the rules aren't going to do it regardless. So that's kind of there's a percentage there. You know what I mean?
That's
But
why you
again,
need regulations, enforceable.
so
Any other comments?
Now what?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, that we've taken information.
I do have a question for the Board of Health, and maybe, anyone that could answer this. If you could come up, maybe
Mr. Reeves?
someone from the Board of Health.
No, okay.
Can you walk us through the process if you get a complaint, say Mr. Hastinson's camper here on his acreage,
That's funny you should say that because he did.
at a hole in the ground, walk us through, how you receive that, how you get there, and what's done about it.
All right, so it's kind of convoluted. So I will say that when a complaint comes into us, we will investigate it. And I want to stress that we are a complaint-driven department. So unless, we get a complaint coming in, we're not going to investigate it unless it's blatant in our face and it's like septic leakage, whatever, and we can see it. So when we do get a complaint, Ernie and I, we always travel in pairs because that way you have another witness with you. So we will go investigate the complaint. We will make notes, depending on what the complaint is. If you have junk cars or whatever, junk cars is a mess. There's that one's kind of, there's no, kind of like what's going on here. There is a hole in the ordinances in this county.
one hole at a time.
Yeah, so I agree with you there. So what we have to do is we'll go in, investigate it, make notes. If it's septic, we will test. We have water bottles with us. We will test it. We will send it to a lab to make sure that it's septic waste. And then, we have to move forward and say, okay, look, you have so many days to actually go and fix this problem. We have one currently that we investigated today, and they are moving forward with fixing the problem. We do understand that there is holes, right? Still more holes. Indiana is one of the only states that does not offer any kind of programs aside from Lake Monroe, Friends of Lake Monroe, for septic. There is no, there's very little grants that come to us, and if they are, it is third party involved. So septic is a big problem in this county. So we will try to help remedy that situation. As far as other complaints, it goes to civil matter. Eventually months later, we get a court date and we move forward. We have people living in, structures that are horrible. And there's some horrible, structures out there right now. And we don't want to kick people out of their homes. You know, that's not our job. I don't like doing that. And neither does Ernie. So we will try to work with these people as much as we can to bring it up to code, whether or not they have water on, whether or not they have electricity. So we say, go to the trustees, see if you can get help from them. And sometimes there's a happy ending. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's holes in floors and rats infestations. And we have people saying, I have nowhere to go. And we're looking at them saying, I'm sorry. We need better solutions. And we also, and I agree, we need teeth. This gentleman said, we need teeth. We don't have teeth to enforce a lot of things.
You don't have one?
Teeth.
Figuratively.
Yeah, and then the other problem we get into is whose responsibility is it? We go in circles sometimes and it's not fun. Because we're trying to do our job and we're trying to make sure that, we're not hurting anybody in the process. Nobody wants to do that. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to ordinances being pushed through so we can do our jobs better and more efficiently. And I think common sense will help.
Bottom line is, myself and everyone else in this room, when it comes to the septic and sewage management individually, we have to come into compliance with IAC 410, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. Now, there is some wiggle room if you can't do that, if the system fails. And then you have no extra room to expand that. I know there are some options, but not too many.
There are not many.
But the bottom line is we're all expected to come in compliance
Correct.
and properly manage our waste.
Our waste, yes, we cannot just keep pouring onto people's yards.
Correct, right.
So we do try.
So I guess a question is, so in an instance where somebody does not properly dispose of their waste, what is the?
Order to vacate. So the next step is in order to vacate. And you have so many days to come into compliance, and if you don't, then we say you have to leave your home. Then we go into the same problem, it's where do you go from there? So it's civil matter, court dates, stuff like that, if they don't leave.
An ordinance really wouldn't help that, that instance.
An ordinances would, because the more that people can't wiggle and find ways out of it, because people are smart, people will look at the ordinances and they will tear them apart and they'll say, well, I fit right here. If you give a clear definition of what we need, then we can help the community get better disposal systems and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I think the more that you're putting some kind of limitation on it, the easier it makes my job.
You say limitations such as?
Ordinance, like if you're doing an ordinance and saying, okay, well, let's throw out a hypothetical. Okay, you're about ready to build a home. If you have your septic system in and you want to stay on your property, let's say for a year, a year permit or something. If you guys do some kind of ruling like that, and somebody's disposing of their waste properly, it gives us things to go on if somebody's not doing that. So if somebody goes and just pulls, a structure, and we're going to say structure because right now the issues we're having are sheds. We have these sheds and people are moving into these sheds. There's no bathroom in them, no nothing. So, that's why we need these building codes, because that way we can say that doesn't define as a structure. We know that it doesn't define as a structure. So what can we do? We know you need to have some kind of septic.
And I am correct in assuming, I think I've been told this a number of times, that the new ordinance that was put together maybe 4 or 5 years ago for Brown County, that has now been shelved and everything now defaults back to IC 410, which is the state regulation.
Correct. We cannot, we have to abide by that, or unless we go in front of the state and have them approve our old ordinance.
Right.
And we chose not to do that. We chose to go by state code.
Yes.
last question.
Yeah.
Avoid your complaints and findings on houses and campers on waste issues.
Mhm.
How many of them are campers versus homes?
I would say half, about half are campers.
Probably, I respond to we probably respond to somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 complaints a month on campers. And we have found campers that runs their septic in the woods.
I didn't hear that last sentence.
Oh, he's saying that we have run into issues.
Ernie, could you step up here to the microphone so we can all
Okay,
hear?
but that was gonna be the next thing.
He's my boss, by the way.
I'm already reading with the Brown County Department of Health. And my last sentence was, we have very recently, as in week before last, got an RV with the Blackwater running in the woods. Unfortunately, we run into this more times than we don't when we're dealing with a complaint on an RV. You've got a lot of RVs out here that we have no complaints on. My department. But the ones that we get complaints on, we typically find them illegally disposing of the waste.
You said illegally.
Illegally disposing of the waste.
So I thought,
So, and Ernie, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I guess I'm going to.
Sure, go ahead.
In those cases, do you order some type of order of correction or, I mean, what happens in those type of situations?
Once again, IC code gives 5 to 15 days to rectify the problem. So that's what we give them is 5 to 15 days, or we will unfortunately have to order a vacated property. That's just how we do it. Yes, sir.
Silly question. You come out, I've got an RV, I've got the line running over the hill. Can't I just take the line and tuck it back up underneath the RV as if I'm going to drive it? And I've now,
The last one that we have looked at, which was very recently in Van Buren, that is exactly what we did. I actually walked with them and assisted with the capping of it.
but I mean, as soon as you leave,
With that being said, as soon as I leave, they're gonna probably run it back into the woods.
it goes back to legislating morality. Like, you,
Exactly.
if we would all just be nice and do right and do the next nice thing, none of this bureaucracy would be necessary.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
So then in that situation, you would likely receive another complaint and then it would come back out and the health department would choose whether to like.
You know, if we would revisit. With that being said, we would probably order a vacate. They refuse to vacate. Civil, we end up in court 12, 14 months later. Welcome to our judicial system.
Is that $15,000-$20,000 in cost for the county per, I mean, would you think?
That I cannot answer. I don't know. I really don't know the dollars and cents.
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap. Whenever you have attorneys involved or an attorney involved, you know, at $400 to $800 an hour, whatever they charge. I'm not sure what they charge, but it is not cheap for us to go to court.
So it'd almost be cheaper to put that towards a fund to actually fix the problem.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't think it's Ernie's fault. but-
right, no, not that it's your decision. I'm just
I'm
saying.
not arguing that point at all.
So in the meantime, the mobile home sits there, the people live in it, and the septic flows.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We've actually did our job when we order the vacate, they refuse to vacate, and we start a civil case against them.
Right.
And that's basically all our department can do.
Right.
David, I got a question for you. If we had an ordinance that specified, like, they can't do a certain thing, and the you know, the resident does exactly what we said they can't do per the ordinance, it would basically take the same course, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I mean, you.
You end up in the same, you know, you give them a, you know, eviction or whatever, or the leave, and then vacate, or you end up in court trying to get them out.
Correct.
Okay,
Keep in mind that vacate is not a condemnation. Okay?
Yeah.
You're talking about.
rental eviction vacates.
So, I don't, there may have any more questions, because I have a question for Kayla.
Thank you. Thanks. And Kayla, you're on deck.
I mean, just obviously, like, the most pressing thing right now is like, well, how do you, even whether we're gonna change the ordinance or anything, that's not a tonight thing. So you know, you in the office needs to know, like, okay, now what do we do, or what are we supposed to tell people? But, so I guess Andy had some of the definitions printed over here, so I was just like looking through the current ordinance, trying to understand, like, is there a path that kind of like gives some guardrails beyond the health department requires this, et cetera. And one of the things, like, so there's the definition of structure that says includes recreational vehicles installed on a site for more than 180 consecutive days. And just like searching the ordinance for the word structure, yes, it's used a lot in the floodplain ordinance, but it is also talked about with like improvement location permits. And so what are those, what is the requirement for when like an improvement location permit has to be issued?
For for residents or for a
Well,
an
just,
accessory structure?
I don't know, it just talks about, like, let me get back to where,
I think it's ours. How many pages are our ordinance?
have you downloaded the most recent one?
I just look at website.
Okay.
That was just a copy that she had printed from.
Another.
Oh, you're
No,
right,
no,
that's
this is our, I'm pretty confident that this page came from our.
32.
I mean, our ordinance, like 400 pages. long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one?
The zoning ordinance.
I have a
Right,
5
no, you
minutes.
can't see.
Let
Me rephrase. I'm taking a
oh,
5
wait, I'm
minutes.
sorry. 400 is how many times?
3.5 minutes.
Let's give me a second to get my thoughts together. I was going off Andy's paper. Hey, you're right, structure
I think that's
doesn't say that.
or something like that. Or
Okay, never mind. Structure doesn't say that. Andy's printed notes got me.
Hmm.
I was trying to find a way through the quagmire for the immediate term.
It sounds like to me, no matter how we look at it, we're gonna have to create an ordinance that clarifies, you know, the do's and don'ts. What is expected, what can't be done.
Say it's not. Let's say the building.
But they can leave that.
Well, if the building code says.
Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, I guess I'm still what now?
What do we do now?
Yeah. If we're gonna keep talking about this, I have to join Andy at a 5-minute break, but if we're saying we're throwing our hands up tonight, then.
Well, I think we've done, the reason for the meeting that I understand was to gather information, to listen to the public, to see what their thoughts were, what their concerns were, if any. And I think we've heard quite a bit of that. I think it's incumbent on us now to go back through and review a lot of this information that we've been provided by the staff.
Right.
And decide where we want to go from here, if anywhere.
Which should be for another meeting.
Correct, not tonight. We could anyway.
And it also cannot be next month either. Unless you guys want a meeting that is very long. Next month, we've got 1 minor subdivision and 3 replats.
No, that's. That's
That
not
would-
what
Probably aren't doing anything other than docket items.
I don't think this is the night one.
It does.
Yeah.
That one.
Okay, I don't either. I mean.
But it's something that needs to be on the calendar.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So in the meantime,
Table.
we don't have a policy?
I mean, I think the policy, like, there's still the other departments, like the health department. You could still give the answer of an RV is not an approved permanent dwelling under the Indiana building. Like, you can still say that, but as far as like, how long can it be parked, it doesn't seem like that has a.
And I would encourage you to give a Lonnie on his interpretation of this residential statute too. And maybe you already have.
I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're in agreement with him.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'll put the vote in. Look at it, please.
I'm not here to defend campers, and I am all for sewage, protection of health. I just want to tell you, on Freeman Ridge, several years ago, we bought a house. And I remodeled it, and there was no, ever did I find a septic tank in that place. So I know this is a RV, it's a different topic, but there are still older houses that have never had septics in Graham County. Because I put the new one in myself, and there was nothing but a pipe over there. So you could, that's still a problem, not as big a problem as what you're talking about now. That I just wanted to.
Yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out. That was also relayed in some of the comments off the survey that we received. And I've worked residential service in this county most of my life and am never amazed at.
Yeah, well, they didn't have what they found. We did everything, all around. There's there ever. It was built in the 50s. Anyway, and I still do want to know what I was told about the 7-day camper out. We don't ask for an answer if I was lied to about that.
You weren't lied, that was the policy, that was.
That was the.
That is.
Policy.
Right, and that's what we're, yes, that's what we're untangling now, is that was the policy that was being conveyed and was understood by the office, but as it's like delved into the ordinance, that isn't in the ordinance, so it's not a lie, but it was.
What would you call it?
A preference.
I mean, that was the policy that was being misunderstanding, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
regardless, you can't use a camper as a tourist home either.
Well, I know that's not right. We didn't discuss that. Did we?
We absolutely did.
Yeah, but once you told me that we couldn't do that, I asked, well, why can't I do it?
Mhm.
Okay.
So we need
Just get rid of the first part.
You're getting into more personnel issues now, okay? So
She has it, not me.
I
like
that part of the conversation is done.
No, I was just asking.
It was not a lie.
No,
It's a
not part of it.
I was just wondering what you called it. That's my.
Misunderstanding, I like to.
Okay, I have one short.
Okay, and we'll be the last one.
Okay, Russ heard it. So rather than make a quick decision about this, we've got, we know this exists. There are lots of folks living in RVs. So if we quantify a program on how to do this, how to qualify, how to make sure the septic's taken care of properly, register, do all that stuff. The stuff about Deschutes County, I hope you guys have time to dig into that a little bit, because it went to the state level, and they got guardrails on the side rails, they address noise, they address everything. And if we take care of the septic, we give people an opportunity to live less expensively until, they can afford to do some other things, or maybe that's it, they have great plans in there and great ways that it works. And I just think it's a thing our whole country's going to need. And just because Brown County is getting gentrified, and what about the generational families that have lived here since I moved here 50 years ago? They're not living this lifestyle of Airbnbs and all that stuff. But I just thought we don't rush to a solution here. We take some time, maybe have a committee with citizens, and come up with things that are a little more compassionate and actually work. And then the health department can do their job, because we'll have, you got to have this is how you're having to haul away. Give me your bill from the septic hauler, for the porta pot hauler, documents. Yeah, it's a little bit of work, but I mean, if that allows people to live on their property or live near their parents on their property in in an RV or camper.
Well, Russ, I hear what you're saying, but you provided this information to us, and what this is this is the state of Oregon here has really jumped out of the head.
But,
The state of Oregon, this is a state regulation that you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay.
well,
And Indiana has no such thing, and I don't see Indiana probably doing anything like this for quite some time.
no, but it's, the reason that it's gone to the state, that it developed it for the state, it's a boilerplate idea. We don't have to jump off from here. I think we should jump off from here and look at their logic and how they did it. And we can do it
I
right now.
agree, but what I'm saying is, good luck here. I mean, you get in that kind of direction.
I think his purpose was, hey, this is someone who's already invented the wheel, this worked for them, that used this as a data point to draw our own, and I love that. I appreciate that. This is one of those things that affect more, more people than you really think about and you know about. And again, I wish we lived in a place that when we found out our neighbors were in need, we could help, and instead of just call 911 or pass an ordinance.
It's how the county does whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we do whack-a-mole or do we find a verifiable path where people could live on their property?
Right.
And it's not, when we passed the tiny house thing, everybody thought, oh my God, we're gonna be over 100 tiny houses. How many we got, Ken? 8?
Probably
6.
8, 10.
You know, but they have a rule they follow, and if we work this out right, we can have a rule we follow so people can live on their property or next to their relative. By the way, the Oregon thing is it's a owner-occupied house. We mentioned that earlier. So I think there are things we can do. I hope we don't just rush to it.
So I want to reach out and thank you to the staff, because they were great questions. It obviously elicited a response. We had more response over this than we did our comp plan survey. To the public that is here tonight and both listening online and reading minutes later, this board wants your opinion. Obviously, we aren't trying to be kings or dictators here, but there are things that are in there are things that are the holes that are left open in our development code, and we're trying to plug those one at a time. So I appreciate you guys coming this evening and speaking. Like it does help. I mean, that's why we didn't just make a decision or rush to a decision. We said we need to hear from the people on this. So.
And we thank you very much for that.
I do have a question for one member of the public, if he's willing to answer this question. Kevin, I'm looking at you as a county commissioner. As planning commission, do you know where we're at with the comprehensive plan that was submitted to you?
That's a question for Tim Clark.
I'm sorry.
That's a question for Tim Clark. He's the one that has the oversight for on that.
Okay.
One is basically, we break these activities up into that. He's involved.
He's got that. Okay, that's fine. All right, thanks.
Don't say that. Don't talk there to the podium, please. I wear hearing aids. I need to hear you.
Hey, can you yell at Ernie Reed to be quiet back there too? I want to take this opportunity to publicly call him out.
Okay, thank you.
This is a quick thing I was thinking about. In Hendricks County, you can get on the website and they have a page dedicated to how to properly dump sewage. They have, I don't know if you have dump places in Hendricks County, there's a place you can go dump sewage, put it in RV. But just educating the public could help some. If people know there's a place to go dump the sewage, if they know how to properly dispose of sewage, just having that page, it's not very expensive. And that education could really help ease maybe some of the issue. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. That was good.
So next month, we meet like a week earlier than normal next month. or-
Yes.
What's that?
What's the date on next month?
It's that 18th.
18th?
And our BCA, is it the day after or the day before?
Neither, it's the week after.
We can.
So the The APC meetings are gonna stay the same throughout November and December as what's on our calendar. Our BZA meetings are going to have to change because we've got a conflict with the commissioners. And since we only have one physical room per night, we only have one virtual room per night too, since we're on YouTube. So the BZA meetings, we'll get those posted as soon as we know for sure.
How many commissioners are there?
There's only 3 of them, there's 7 of us. I think we can take.
Easy math.
I did ask if they could move their meetings, but I was told no.
Oh, okay. But you tried.
Okay.
You need a motion to adjourn.
So much.
If so, I'll move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And really, thank you everybody for coming. God, excellent.